The LRD Show is sponsored by Anchor. Do you have a voice and want to be heard? Why not start a podcast? Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. You will have access to creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast, so it sounds great. They will even distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard anywhere from Spotify to Google Podcasts and many more. Download the Anchor app, or go to anchor.fm, to get started today.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The LRD Show.
Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in to the LRD Show. I am your host, Lois Durham, and this week's guest is Mary Rose Franklin. Mary Rose has been building communities in business for more than 30 years. Her background was in middle management until she founded, grew, and ultimately sold her $1 million communications company. Following the sale of her communications company, she took a break for a while until she realized she wasn't having any fun. She wanted to share her knowledge of business and how to develop marketing strategies and build business relationships through referrals. Now Mary Rose teaches others to do what she had successfully done in her communications company, building sustainable referral networks. Now she teaches the secrets in her webinar program, The Referral Method. At this time, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, I will welcome Mary Rose Franklin to the show. Okay, we are back, and at this time, I would like to welcome to the show Mary Rose Franklin. How are you doing, Mary, and welcome to the show?
Oh, thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Lois. I really appreciate this opportunity to chat with you.
Well, thank you for taking interest in my show. I was actually very surprised that people took interest when I blasted all over social media. Everyone was interested, and I'm glad you took interest to that.
Well, you know, it's interesting, Lois, because I have a particular interest in the virtual assistant marketplace for my program. My daughter happens to be a pretty successful virtual assistant, and she gets calls all the time from virtual assistants who are either starting out or just really having trouble expanding their business. So I have a particular soft spot in my heart for your industry.
Wow, that is great. So what inspired you to create your program, The Referral Method?
Well, as you mentioned in my bio, I was in the communications business, and after I sold my company, I just, like a lot of people, you kind of sit on the porch or take classes or do nothing. And I found it really wasn't very much fun. It was very unfulfilling. So really at the core of who I am, I like to solve problems. And in a couple of years, I launched my coaching and consulting practice in order to reconnect with people and help them solve their challenges. So while generally my particular challenge and that of many people is kind of struggling to get out of our own way, I hired a coach in Detroit, flew back and spent a week with him, and he really helped me get clear about what my strengths were and what I could bring to other people. And at the heart resides in it's my business experience. So as it turns out, my talents are to help the solopreneur and small business owner really get clear about what their values and their purpose and their message and how to expand their business through referrals.
That's very interesting. So why did you develop the referral method?
Well, the name, the referral method, is sort of a new incarnation, but thank you for asking the question. When I launched my coaching and consulting program, I had the pleasure of working with a really broad range of business people: lawyers, financial professionals, corporate executives, and startup entrepreneurs, virtual assistants, coaches, and many other business types. And one of the most challenging areas for each of these professions was how to build or expand their already successful or thriving business to meet their financial expectations. So this is really right up my alley in being a problem solver.
Right. That's very interesting. So let's say I would want to use this type of service for my business. How would that work for me since I'm a virtual assistant?
Well, one of the things, I take a little bit of a different approach in the way I come to the helping people be able to build a sustainable referral network. Because one of the things that I think is really important is be completely grounded, really, really clear with the foundational pieces, so that doesn't get in the way when you're delivering a message or trying to tell somebody what you do, so that your message is succinct, clear. You're absolutely clear who your client is. There's no question in your mind who is your target audience, your ideal client. And then to set about really creating, it's in a way, marketing for any business owner is almost a parallel business, because so many people find that what they do with their business is they get a bunch of business and they're happy as they can be, and they forget about doing marketing. And it really needs to, it's sort of like a railroad train, you really need to run on both tracks at the same time, because otherwise you're always in startup mode and you're not on the top of your game by way of really being able to do marketing in an effective way, so that your investment of time is really useful. So it's that foundational piece for virtual assistants, and when I target or say virtual assistants are kind of a target for me, it's because they're really good technically. I mean, you know this, and I know your colleagues. They know stuff. They know infusion software. They knew all the latest whatevers. Somebody said cascading something or other, and I thought, well, geez, what is that? But you know all the technical things, but you're not necessarily equipped with marketing experience. And so, you get a handful of clients and customers, and you're happy as a clam, and then you realize that this isn't really enough to keep you in the style that you had imagined. So this is the reason that I think it's important to be able to be successful, is kind of running in two tracks: your business, whatever your business is, virtual assistants, and doing always a percentage of your time invested in your marketing.
Right. So with that development, how did that result in the actual program?
Well, as I was working with a variety of clients, doing a variety of consulting types of situations, mostly, as I say, kind of helping people get out of their own way, I really began to think back about when I started my communications company, and that was a new adventure for me when I started the communications company. So while I'd worked in outside sales for a communications company before I started my own, my previous experience had all been inside in middle and upper management in a variety of different business ventures. But I think something that I realized when I started my communications company was that if I depended on bagging one sale at a time, or going to, at one more chamber meeting, I'd be dead before I reached my objective, which was by putting out 1,000 units the first year. So the first step was to be really clear about what I was up to. That, again, as I said earlier, the foundation was so important. And the second step was to define my message. The third step was to commit, no kidding, to my goal. And the next step was to figure out how. So I set a serious goal and then began to think about how I could do this. And I began to think of who were some of the people who had business dealings with the people that I saw as my ideal clients or customers. So the next, not contacting my direct customer, but the person one step away who had a relationship already with whom I wanted to be my customer. So the third party, vendor or provider. And that's how I built my company.
Well,
and I know this kind of sounds simple, but how it works out is I was inspired by the story of Cortez, who was to conquer Montezuma. And when he founded the town of Veracruz, he burned his ships so that the troops could not return and must therefore conquer or perish. And that story is really both horrifying and exciting because it speaks to the level of commitment that we have as entrepreneurs to be successful. So just like Cortez, I drove my mission forward and had no plan B and became very successful at enrolling people who did business with my customers and clients and created a mutually satisfying referral relationship that would move me forward to reach my goal of 1,000 units within the first year. And this is the kind of the principles of what I teach, is not to have a plan B.
Well, that really does sound simple. So how did it work out, and what did you do next?
Well, what I did was just really focus on getting really, really clear about my message, who my ideal client was, what was my vision. You know, a lot of coaches and one thing and another, they talk about your values and your vision. Well, you know, those are really some important aspects to being in business, is being clear about what you're up to. And the thing that I found when I was calling on potential clients or going and meeting with someone and, you know, closing the deal rather, is so many people had, if this doesn't work out, I have this as a fallback. I was shocked. I was shocked at how people thought about that. And again, it came back to the story of Cortez, you know. You burn the ships and go forward. That's it. So that's kind of the strategy that I think, because it keeps you single-minded. It keeps you singly focused.
Okay, so how does that apply to your program, the referral method?
So, as I said, when I began my coaching and consulting practice, I began to hear more and more about solopreneurs and small business owners having trouble developing enough ongoing business. You know, some businesses lend themselves to repeat business and some just don't. So upon hearing this complaint so many times, I realized that there was need for a program to help people create their own referrals. So I began to reflect on my own past experience and set about to develop a program that would provide strategies, tools, techniques, so that my clients could be successful building their own referral network. And I developed this program for a live audience. So I delivered this as a live workshop for a group setting, as well as working with individual coaching clients, and use the methods and the techniques for this to help them develop their own referral program. So then I realized how hard it was and how limiting it was for people to have to show up in a room. So I was very, very interested in translating this program into some kind of online opportunity, but I didn't know, I didn't have a clue as to what button to push. I was so dense about, geez, I don't know, what is, you know, LinkedIn anyway? So I heard about a fellow by the name of George Cow, and he offered a program that was two modules in particular, and I bought both of them. One was about how to understand and work social media, and the other one was how to develop a webinar system so that you can deliver webinars. And I must say that it changed my life. I mean, it really, I now certainly don't know everything, and I'm certainly not the expert, and sometimes I fumble around, but I learned so much about the buttons to push and what to do and how to develop it and how to deliver it through George's program. I'm just so grateful for that. So that's, and then the other thing that I realized, it was a big deal to translate a program that was already created, but it was created for a live audience. It wasn't created for a webinar, and so there was a certain amount of challenge in rescripting and getting it broken down in a proper way so it could be successfully delivered in a webinar format. So this is kind of where I am. I've just completed a beta program with a group of people from a community I belong to, and I've just gotten really rave reviews about it. So I'm really pleased that that what was very successful delivered live seems to be successful delivered virtually.
Right. That sounds so interesting. What we're going to do right now is we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And see if we got any callers. If anyone wants to call in and ask me or Rose a question, Mary Rose a question, I'm sorry, you can dial in at 619-789-4327, and all you have to do is press 1 to speak to the host. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. All right, we are back to the show. This is the LRD Show. Tunes in every Saturday, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on the same channel. Mary, are you still there?
I am.
All right, it looks like we do have a couple of online listeners. I do have one guest. Let's see, it's a guest plus a couple of numbers behind it. But it asks, how can someone contact you if they want to acquire your services?
Well, let's see. They could email me, Mary at maryfranklin.net. That's probably the most expedient way.
So I'm trying to think of some more questions because we still got a bit more time.
Well, Lois, I have a question for you. I'd really like to know, because you have been in business for a while, and I'd be interested in learning a little more about when you started your business, what did you find was a struggle? I think that's always interesting to know, is how, each of us, because we all have our struggle in the beginning of trying to kind of get it together. And I'd be curious to know what you found.
For me, it was a bit of a struggle. Some people might not know this about me, but I'm almost 28 years old. When you look at pictures of me, you won't believe me when I say I'm 28 years old. I look actually young for my age. And I've always wanted to do this type of work. I've always wanted to do like administrative or something that has to do with a computer. I love computers. I love technology. And there was times growing up I tried to go out to get those type of jobs, and they looked at me like, okay, you're too young. You don't know anything about this. You need to go do something else. And I know another thing about it is it's like with me, if I do put a ton of makeup on and try to dress up, they look at me like I'm trying to play dress up. And it doesn't work out that way. So I kind of over the years, I've kind of done some research, and the term virtual assistant came up a couple times, and, I always question things because I'm very leery when it comes to certain things, and I always wondered, is that truly legit? I mean, can you honestly work on, online or virtually and then, stuff like that? So I took the time, did the research, found out that it was very much real. So what I did was, kind of went and got my things together. Like I building their website, a little bit of marketing here and there. And I actually got in touch with someone from a networking group, which, you know, kind of in a way was a good thing because it introduced me to a lot of people which now I do have actual clients that are great. It's kind of hard to explain on that one, though. I know with me, I'm very open-minded, but I don't like to be changed, I guess. So I don't know how to explain that question. That's a very good question.
Well, I think, don't you think that we all kind of get into a groove that we're comfortable with?
Right.
I mean, I find that for myself. I mean, I have, as I'm sure you do, I have a broad range of capabilities. I focused on this in particular because I think that this is something that's really needed, and I suspect that you have certain things that you prefer. Doesn't mean that you only get to do them, but you prefer to do as opposed to other things. And it's hard to step out of that niche, and we're tasked with it. My daughter, for instance, she hates to write, and she's frankly, she's not a great writer. So she tells people right up front, if a new client calls, I don't write. That's the way it is. So she's not interested in spending time. She'd rather research how to do the latest technology. So, I think we all.
I'm the opposite. I actually like to write. Like when it comes to communication skills, I can write like I don't know what, but when it comes to me actually speaking, that would be another issue. I mean, this is the reason why I created, the LRD Show was I thought, with it being an online radio show, it'd be a great communication tool, just to interact one-on-one and then, other people. That way, over a period of time, I would become more comfortable, speaking. So that's the main reason behind that.
Well, good for you. I think that's really great. My challenge was writing. I worked for a national CPA firm in their management consulting department a long time ago, and my direct boss said I was the worst writer he'd ever seen.
Wow.
A few years ago, I started a newsletter just to see if I could do it, and I'll tell you, I wrote it every month for 4 years, and I got decidedly better. It was really funny, but it's just tackling those things that. And now I really like to write. I wouldn't say I'm the best writer, but I'm not terrible. So it's interesting also that you bring up your age because it's interesting because at both ends of the spectrum, it's that way. If you look really young, forget about how old you are, or if you say you're a certain age, an older age, people just automatically, whether they see you or they don't see you, they all automatically make a decision about it. And I just think that's really interesting, never mind the person's capabilities. I just think it's really curious how employers and people who engage other people in work, think about that. It might, it could have been a struggle for you. Actually, I remember when I was in management and I was doing some hiring, and I do remember this young woman who came in, and I did think that. I thought, how can she know how to do anything? She's like 12. So it's definitely, it's out there. It just is. It's a big challenge.
Right, exactly. And I know it's funny because I'm married. It'll be 2 years in November, and I remember even going to doctor's office, I think a year or so back, and Dr. looked at us like we were kids, and my husband's 10.5 years older than me. So I'm just like, really? He's almost 40? I'm almost 30? Really?
Yeah, it's. I don't know exactly if that's a situation in this country, if it's this way in other countries as well. I'd be interested in knowing that.
I would too.
So, but I just really, what is it that you particularly like to do the most in your business?
That's a good question because I don't have like specifically one niche. I don't go for one type of service. Like, I'm kind of like a jack of all trades. Like, I do administrative work. I do bookkeeping. I know how to I do the web design along with social media. I do know, and I have done before, like, edit audio and video. So, I mean, and some people actually tell me that can be a bad thing to have more than one niche or services like that, but for me, I enjoy that because you're not stuck doing the same thing every day, like over and over and over. I mean, because that's how people with jobs, I seem to think, get burned out so easily.
Right.
Is the fact that they're constantly getting up, going into work, doing the same thing every day. Whereas, you know, I could have one client that needs me to do the bookkeeping, or I could say someone called me asking me to do a website. I mean, it's like different things every day. I mean, it is sometimes can be like a juggling act, but that's one thing I like about it is because I'm not constantly going, okay, what am I doing? No, I know what I'm doing, and it's great that it's different, which is one thing I love about my business. It's not the same thing. And it's good because it actually is a good thing for me because it introduced me to changes and helps me learn how to deal with those changes along the way.
Right. But actually,
go ahead.
Well, one of the things I was going to say, because the thing that I find with some clients is they'll say, oh, I've got this thing and that thing, and they're not really connected. But, when you really look at them, you're the connector. And each one of those things, if you were in an office and it was your business, you'd be doing bookkeeping, you'd be doing the web development, you'd be doing the administrative kinds of things. So really, they're not that diverse after all, really. So I always think it's important for people to, while I think there might be a specialty or something you prefer, but I think it's also important to look at the common thread throughout everything that you do that you enjoy doing.
Right. But I mean, if I had to choose, like, out of all the things I do in my business, like, the one thing I guess enjoy the most, it probably would be the web design, because not all websites are the same. Like, one could be, like, let's say a law firm, and then another one could be like a towing service. I mean, it's complete, plus people's styles are so different from one another. I mean, one person could want one type of style on their website, and another one could just want a simple informational site. I mean, it depends on the person in general, so. Sure.
Well, and I think that's the diversity of personalities, and their likes and dislikes are what makes it interesting as well as challenging. I find that in my work as well. I think that that's, there's a common thread, but yet there's enough diversity to be interesting and challenging.
Right.
So
exactly.
That's great.
Right.
Well, I'm happy to get to know more about your why, because I think the why is really important. I think that everybody. It's really important that everybody knows what the why is about their business, and to be able to really enjoy being diverse.
Right. Exactly. Like, I love my business. I love doing what I do, because it's like, even though it can be stressful sometimes, because some people think they go to business, they work a certain amount of hours and then they're done. No. Beginning stages of my business, I mean, it could be like 12, 14 hours a day, just to get everything figured out.
Right.
So, I mean, it takes time to build a business.
Yep, it sure does.
But I love it because it makes, I don't know, it feels like I have a purpose in life versus going to work and doing the same thing over and over.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, I really thank you so much for having me on your show. I've really enjoyed telling you about and your listeners about what I do, and I'm really passionate about what I do, and I'm just really thrilled to learn more about what you do. So thank you for this opportunity.
Tune in next week. Next week's guest will be Joshua Moses of Red Sea VA. I will have another virtual assistant on the air. And tune in next week. LRD Show is on every Saturday afternoon, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on this very same channel. Well, that's it for the show. I am Lois Riley Durham, and you have just listened to the LRD Show. Have a great weekend.